Hard worker, nurturer of the soil, and producer of food are just some of the words to describe the nation's farmers. We continue to celebrate Farmers Month for April. Hello and welcome to Jamaica Magazine. I'm Theodore Henry.
Hi Jamaica, this is Pernell Charles Jr., your Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries. April is recognized as Farmers Month, and that's the time for us to celebrate our noble, hardworking and resilient farmers and fishers. Our food heroes have led Jamaica through some of the most difficult times. Whether it is pandemic, global conflict or climate change, you have continued to persist and exceed expectations. So we want to thank you for 7 consecutive quarters of growth in the agricultural sector, and assure you that the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries will continue to give the necessary support so that you can continue to be the food heroes that you are. Farming is viable and food security is everybody's business. So, as we celebrate Farmers Month, we want to urge all Jamaicans to get on board and grow smart and eat smart. Remember, one love.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Monday, April 17, 2023. Residents of St. Thomas are to see an improvement in conditions associated with the construction of the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. Prime Minister Andrew Holness gives the assurance as the pace of work increases and the August 2023 deadline remains on track. So far, 8.5 kilometers of the 14-kilometer 4-lane roadway have been completed. This is the Harbourview in St. Andrew to Albion in St. Thomas leg. Mr. Holness toured sections of St. Thomas on Thursday, where he observed the progress of the project.
Work is progressing. From what I have seen, I'm seeing the foundational infrastructure being put in, culverts, the pipe laying as drains is already done, but the drains are being done. And I'm also seeing the impact on the traffic and on the drivers.
According to Mr. Holness, 3 main areas of discomfort raised at a meeting prior to the tour are being addressed. To manage the dust nuisance, he says the National Works Agency and the contractor will increase both wetting and supervision of wetting. Instructions have also been given for residents to be able to access their properties with relative comfort. Meanwhile, in relation to the driving surface, Mr. Holness says this is more technical based on the level of work required before surfacing.
But what I have said to the NWA, and I'm sure they will give directions to the contractor, is that there should be at least 1 lane that is drivable.
Residents of SANDSIDE and Trinity Heights in St. Mary and adjoining communities are now receiving improved and consistent water supply. The commissioning of the SANDSIDE storage tank replacement project on Thursday is part of a $22 million overhauling of the water supply system in the community. Acting Regional Manager of the National Water Commission, David Price, says over 120 households are being served by a system that is easier to maintain, has greater resilience and better water quality.
So now we have completed a 2-phase project with this tank being supplied by a second tank in Sandhill being the source. Those 2 additional infrastructure are now providing water on a daily basis to SANDSIDE and the Trinity Heights community.
Minister with responsibility for water, Senator Matthew Samuda, says the investment in the 100,000-gallon tank is part of ongoing works in St. Mary.
We would have done the shot pan corner system. We'd have done a distribution line in Castleton for 800 beneficiaries. We'd have done a system in Islington for 52 million with 1,500 beneficiaries. We've done a system in Marley for 150 beneficiaries. Barclaytown, Fellowship Hall. All of these areas in St. Mary have gotten upgraded systems in the last 24 months.
Minister Samuda says work is also underway on the Jordan Well that serves Agualta Vale to Highgate areas. Cabinet has approved the award of several contracts to bolster public education. It includes over $848,000 to Cable and Wireless Business Jamaica for the provision of wide area network connectivity services to 68 institutions for 3 years. Minister with responsibility for information, Robert Morgan, provided details during a post-cabinet press briefing last week.
There was an award of contract by the National Education Trust for the construction of a classroom at the Bridgeport High School, which is in St. Catherine. This contract was of the amount of $223,625,000 to NF Barnes Construction and Equipment Limited.
In addition, contracts valued at over $625 million were also approved for the procurement and distribution of grades 4 to 6 textbooks in language arts, science, and social studies. This is for the academic year 2023-24 and is being done under the Education Ministry's primary textbook program. The Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce is moving to make doing business within the medicinal cannabis industry easier. Speaking at a press conference last Thursday, Minister Aubin Hill provided an update on the status of Jamaica's medicinal cannabis market.
Under the International Narcotics Control Board, the INCB, which is a product of the UN Single Convention Treaty of 1961, we will seek to ensure that the Jamaican market has all the medicinal cannabis products that it needs and will therefore not need to import any medical or medicinal cannabis.
The ministry is also working on the Alternate Development Program ADP 2.0 to regulate the industry and incorporate more small players.
We've done a rough pilot before. We've learned some things from it, but we're going back to Cabinet to have about 16 communities involved, including about 128 farmers. These are small-scale and traditional farmers.
Senator Hill adds that startup fees to grow your nursery for the first 2 years will be removed. This is to make the process easier for more persons to enter the market. And finally, the St. Elizabeth Office of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security will be handing over birth certificates to senior citizens to help them access benefits under government's social pension program. Parish Manager Michelle Senior says over 25 birth certificates will be handed over to persons 75 years and older. She made the announcement at the monthly meeting of the St. Elizabeth Municipal Corporation in Black River recently. Ms. Senior says it is hoped that the handover will take place by the end of April, after which the senior citizens can transition to the social pension program. The social pension program targets all Jamaican citizens 75 years and older who are not currently in receipt of a pension, old age or disability benefit or income and are not living in a government institutionalized care facility and are generally described as vulnerable. Each beneficiary receives funds every 2 months, which will be credited to their bank account or disbursed via the applicant's remittance agency of choice. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
The main thing for an earthquake is to ensure that you're protecting your most vital parts of your body, and one of that is your head. So we speak to the fact that you drop, cover and hold, you get under something very sturdy, wooden table, not glass. You cover, which is to cover your head, and you hold in order for you not to be shaken off your feet. So that is in the immediate, once you're in the building. Immediately after the shake is over, you have to, as quickly as possible, evacuate the building. So you get into an assemble area, and this is where, especially for offices and schools, this is where you now start to check to ensure that all your personnel are there. We also speak to having a warden system. So companies, schools should ensure that they have floor wardens. These persons should be so trained and equipped where they can check the facility. You check to ensure that everyone would have evacuated the building. You have to check to ensure that you don't have any ruptured pipes, you don't have gas leaking and all these things too. This is just to ensure that you might not have these secondary occurrences such as fires and your hazardous material leaks. So these are some of the procedures that persons should employ in an earthquake during the immediate shake and after the shake. For businesses, it is essential that you have your continuity planning procedures. So your team should be trained in terms of your emergency requirements, general emergency requirements. So you treat with staff, or you ensure that persons are safe during the quake, or you ensure that persons are safe after the quake. A major quake, you can have a tremor going up to sometimes 30 seconds, beyond 30 seconds. It depends on the magnitude and severity. And sometimes 10 seconds can seem like a lifetime. So it's important to ensure that you are doing your emergency planning procedures and you constantly have your drills. So it becomes second nature, or as I always love to say at the Odd Pyramid, it becomes nature.
Being able to grow and produce your own food as a nation or a household is more important now than ever before. Why? Many reasons, one of them being the long-term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns caused by climate change. One local teaching institution has taken the mantra of grow what you eat what you grow to heart, and is producing food for its kitchen. Let's find out more in this feature.
Our future is being planted and nurtured in a school known for producing long-serving teachers for our educational system. But before getting in the classroom, a teacher first has to grow through real-world experiences and purposeful integration of theory and practice to develop the habit of teacher-like thinking.
We believe in the development of the wholesome man at Shortwood, and this activity will help to develop that wholesomeness. So they'll be exposed to skills and competencies that they can take away and that can complement their teaching career as they leave this noble institution to go and serve the world.
And to serve the global community, the understanding is to know the practice of planting, reaping, and waiting for harvesting, a skill that, while challenging, leads to patience.
There's no success without challenge, and you have to overcome it at some point in your life. It is good to set yourself a goal. Do not let any individuals, direct you off that path with negative thoughts. So it is best to just keep focused on one thing, and then you just see where that goes.
Also, your input influence your output. This means that the more we care for the crops, the more we'll gain a greater yield.
The farm at Shortwood Teachers College is nothing new. We started a farm in about 2006 thereabouts. At that time, I should say, we did grow different plants, and our current farm manager was one of the students engaged in that back then.
And with his gained experiences, he returned to the institution to plant the seed for sustainable development through food cultivation.
One of the first things I did was to do a needs assessment. What are the vegetables that we utilize in the canteen? And so we ensure that whatever we have, we supply the canteen so we don't need to get those food items externally. Currently we have pumpkin, as you're seeing here, I have one in my hand. We have tomato, we have corn, we have pak choy, scotch bonnet pepper, cucumber, cocoa, we have dasheen, and we have also planted sweet pepper in the past. We have green bananas currently, and we also have plantains.
I know that Shortwood Teachers College and the Ministry of Education and Youth, we've been strengthening our relationships over the years, over the decades. Please continue to do so. There's a lot of work ahead of us, still transformation, much transformation ahead of us, and we are going to need our teachers' colleges to be with us lockstep in terms of that transformation.
Beyond imparting knowledge, cultivating and supporting students' growth also depends on the knowledge and abilities gained through tilling the soil to set roots deep enough for students to not only thrive, but do so without breaking.
Have you ever thought about how much salt you consume daily and how it's affecting your body? Well, if you've never done so, now is an opportune time to stop and think about it before you put the next French fry, popcorn, or chips to your mouth, since this briny affair could be detrimental.
Most of us are very familiar with salt. The most common is table salt. The chemical name is sodium chloride, and it's a common component of the food supply in most countries. There are several other sources of salt, including monosodium glutamate, or MSG as it's commonly known, and sodium bicarbonate, or baking soda. Salt is commonly used to flavor food and is used as a binder, stabilizer, as well as preservative. Sodium, or salt as we know it, plays an important role in the proper functioning of our body, with just about 500 milligrams needed daily to carry out normal body functions, such as water balance and nerve conduction. However, most of us are consuming much more than is needed.
Global estimates suggest that persons consume between 9 to 12 grams of salt per day, which is 1.5 to 2 times the recommended intake level.
This briny affair is one of the key factors in our non-communicable disease burden. In simple terms, our overconsumption of this nutrient is contributing to the development of several diseases.
When we look at the heart and cardiovascular system, increased salt intake is associated with high blood pressure, with ischemic heart disease, with hypertensive heart disease, as well as heart failure. For the brain, it's associated with stroke, as well as dementia. For the kidneys, with chronic kidney disease and renal stones. For the stomach, there is an association with increased risk of stomach cancer. For the bones, there's problems related to osteoporosis.
High blood pressure or hypertension affects 1 in 3 Jamaicans, and another third is pre-hypertensive. Salt consumption is also often accompanied by increased intake of calories, which increases the propensity for obesity.
Given that the entire population is at risk of NCDs, given the significant impact and the burden of NCDs, it's imperative that there is sustained action to mitigate the effects of salt consumption.
In 2021, the Ministry of Health and Wellness launched the Jamaica Salt Consumption Knowledge, Attitudes and Practice Jamaica Salt CAP study. It was designed to provide local baseline data for strengthening strategies to eliminate overconsumption of salt within the population. The ministry is partnering with the National Non-Communicable Disease Committee, the National Health Fund, and the University of the West Indies on the study.
One important aspect of addressing the health concerns of any population is through research. This study, therefore, will help to determine the knowledge, attitude, and practices of our population as it relates to salt intake and strengthen the implementation of strategies to reduce.
This project has specific objectives. So firstly, we aim to estimate the dietary sodium consumption among Jamaicans using spot urine sodium analyses. We want to evaluate the salt content in commonly consumed packaged foods sold in supermarkets. We also want to evaluate the sodium content in commonly used consumed foods in local restaurants. Then we will conduct a national survey to get information on knowledge, attitudes, and practices regarding salt intake in Jamaica.
The World Health Organization, WHO, recommends less than 5 grams of sodium per day for adults and less than 2 grams for children under 11 years of age. 1 in 10 Jamaicans consume excess salt by adding it during cooking or at the table, as well as by frequent consumption of salty sauces or high-sodium processed foods. A significant amount of sodium also comes from ready-made meals and prepared foods, including processed meats, breakfast cereals, and snacks. It's a scenario where the entire population is at risk for NCDs. Minimizing this habit for excess salt in the diet of Jamaicans is one of several goals informing the Ministry of Health and Wellness's NCD agenda. The mission to shake the salt habit begins with the young. Lowering sodium in children's diets today can help prevent heart disease later in life, especially for those who are overweight. Limit their consumption of salty snacks. And remember, no more than 2 grams per day from all food sources for those under 11 years of age. Let's also shop and cook smart. Use less or no salt when cooking and add more flavor to your food by using fresh herbs and salt-free seasoning instead. Also, keep a watch on the foods that are high in salt and limit the consumption. Take the time to carefully read the nutrition labels on food products to determine those providing the healthier options, and be mindful of the portion size you consume. Also, seek out recipes for healthy, tasty meals that can be prepared with little or no salt.
Jamaica is a signatory to the United Nations International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, which recognizes the right of everyone to the highest standard of health. And we believe that in order to achieve this, we must address the crises of NCDs and the role that excess salt, sugars and fats play in making Jamaicans susceptible to getting a lifestyle disease.
Jamaica has committed to the World Health Organization voluntary target to reduce sodium or salt consumption by 30% by 2025. Achieving this requires buy-in from all stakeholders, including manufacturers, retailers, health professionals, and consumers.
We have a duty to ensure that Jamaicans are aware of the harmful effects of unhealthy diets and have access to important nutritional information, which will allow them to make healthier food choices. It has to be tackled initially from the prevention perspective, and the core of that is consumer information, and then policies that encourage or nudges health-seeking behavior.
We all must do our part to break this briny affair. Shake the salt habit and stay healthy.
Whether it's in your dreams or while reading a book, being transported to another place is something many people desire. But in the physical space, to get there across borders, you'll need a passport. Here's how you can go about getting one of your own.
It's among the world's most powerful books. It grants you access to over 50 international territories without a visa. I'm sure by now you realize I'm speaking of a Jamaican passport. Here's how you can acquire this trusted identification and travel document. The Passport Immigration and Citizenship Agency (PICA) is the government entity responsible for issuing this identification and citizenship document. First, you must obtain and complete a passport application form. The form is available at PICA offices on their website or any police headquarters island-wide. First-time adult applicants are required to appear in person with their completed application form and 2 identical photographs, one of which must be certified by the person who verified the application form. The photos must be taken within the last 6 months for it to be valid. Additional documents are a birth, adoption, or Jamaican citizenship certificate, as well as a valid government-issued photo identification, such as a driver's license or a voter's ID, and a proof of name change if the name has been altered. For renewals, adult applicants may apply online or in person by submitting a simplified renewal form along with the expired passport. A Dropbox service is also available at PICA's headquarters at 25 Constant Spring Road in Kingston. Applications submitted using the Dropbox service will take 7 working days to process. Applicants living overseas must visit pica.gov.jm to start the renewal process. They will need their expired passport, passport-sized photograph for upload, Visa or MasterCard, debit or credit card to make payment, and an email address to get updates on the application. Applicants who are under 18 years old must appear in person and present a certificate of citizenship, 2 identical photographs with one being certified, the parent or legal guardian's government-issued identification, and sections C and E of the application completed by the parent or guardian. The same procedure applies for passport renewals for minors. Passport processing fees will vary depending on the service chosen or the location where the application was submitted. A regular adult passport costs $6,500 Jamaican dollars locally, $80 if in America, or £50 in the United Kingdom. PICA's Kingston location processes applications in 7 working days. Montego Bay, Portmore and Maypen does so in 14 days, while overseas applications take 20 working days. Expedited services are also available for local applications. Once the passport is ready, applicants must bring the official receipt with a valid ID and pick up at the location they submitted their application. The person collecting on an applicant's behalf must have a written consent form, a copy of the applicant's ID, and the official receipt. Courier services are available at PICA's Kingston location. It's the gateway to travel and so much more. Getting a passport is your legal right as a Jamaican citizen.
Before we jet off, I want to thank you for spending time with us on Jamaica Magazine. As renowned playwright William Shakespeare pointed out in The Merry Wives of Windsor, the world's mine oyster, which I with sword will open. Join us again tomorrow as we take you on another interesting journey. Until then, you can visit our website at jis.gov.jm for more. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.